My fellow Singaporeans, a very good afternoon to all of you. I thank you for waiting for that few minutes while we iron out some technical matters. I come to you today from the living room of the lovely home of Ricky in Towner Road, Jalan Besar GRC, which is one of the battleground constituencies for People's Voice. This is the first in our series of Living Room Rallies. And over the next few weeks, we will be traversing Singapore to the other battleground constituencies that People's Voice will be contesting in. I know you may feel different, that for the first time in our elective history, we are not going to have the crowds at mass rallies. But there's always a silver lining to every cloud. And I suppose the silver lining here is that all of you can watch from the comfort of your home and be protected from the elements of the weather. Especially so at this moment when we are having the wet season. My fellow Singaporeans, I come today before you totally unscripted. And maybe you will find that a welcome change from the horrible 6 very scripted speeches that the PAP have put out over the last 2 weeks. I want to have a conversation with you. And you will know by now that in a very few short weeks or few short months, you will be headed for the polls. And this is going to be the most critical elections in 61 years of Singapore history. Yes, it has been 61 years since the PAP assumed government in 1959. And of course, I do remember that several years ago, a party across the border lost power and were kicked out after being in power for 61 years. But this election will present you with the clearest choice you have had since Singapore gained its independence. It is a choice between the PAP, the party of the privileged and the richest, and People's Voice, and the other opposition. People's Voice stands for the working class people of Singapore. We want to improve the lives for all. And it is our historic legacy to see that in this election, it is the working class people of Singapore who will prevail. Every 4 to 5 years, the PAP, the establishment, the media come before us with the same formula, with the same narrative. You must give us a strong mandate so that investors will have confidence. They will not leave Singapore. But every 4 to 5 years, for at least the last 2 decades, that life of the Singaporean has markedly decreased. It has not improved. This election is also about protecting the rights and interests of citizenship, which is what People's Voice stands for. My fellow Singaporeans, the 5 most important words that belongs to every Singaporean are "We, the citizens of Singapore." They are the opening words of our national pledge. Our national pledge does not open with the word "I." It opens with the word "we," because citizenship is a political status. And when we use the word "we," it means that we have a shared political status. We are together in this common enterprise known as Singapore. But over the decades, the PAP have diluted the meaning of citizenship. And with it has come a host of problems. And I think the coronavirus epidemic has shown up the PAP for what it is. A mediocre group who, despite all the rhetoric and the spin and the PR they put out, are weak men and women, totally devoid of ideas of how to bring our nation forward. Heng Swee Keat, who wants to be the next Prime Minister, has presided over the worst productivity record as Finance Minister. And they tell us that without the foreign workers, we cannot be competitive. In fact, it is because of the foreign workers that we are in such a bad shape today, because of low productivity, low wages. So, my friends, if you believe that the PAP has instilled in you pride for your country and optimism for your future, yes, you should go on voting for the PAP in this coming election. But if you believe that you no longer feel so proud of your country, and that the future for yourself and your next generation are bleak because of the policies of the PAP government for the last 2 decades, may I suggest that you have a different choice. You can pursue a different course. And you can choose a different government come election day. For the people's voice, we will always insist on putting people first, because we believe that only by doing that can we make Singapore our home again. And we must regain our dignity, our country, and our future. So you can ask me questions, and I will certainly answer you live. Thank you very much. May I ask for questions from the viewers?
Will you revamp education system by Titus?
Titus, thank you for that great question about the education system. You know, I will start by saying this. The PAP always tells us there is a mismatch in skills and jobs. And they say, as a result, we have no choice but to bring in the foreigners. Does that not show you how bad, in fact, the education system has become? If we cannot educate our people to do the jobs that are available in the market, you have to seriously ask yourselves, ask the PAP, ask Ong Ye Kung, what is he doing with the education system? Yes, I think we need to revamp the education system that I went through, and probably someone of similar age went through. They were invented for the industrial age. But times have changed. We are now in the knowledge era. And so I think we must definitely have an education system that promotes more critical thinking, not rote learning, not so obsessive with grades. And I very much like what the Finnish are doing with their education system. The PAP always talk about revamping the education system. But look at how slow they are. They cannot even do away with PSLE. And you know, a few months ago, at the end of last year, after PV made a lot of noise, or was it earlier this year, when we questioned why, in the midst of COVID, our home-based learning was so backward. Ong Ye Kung said, oh yes, by 2024 or 27, I can't remember which year it was, every secondary school student will then have a laptop, a learning device. And the other day, I learned from Taman that now they will bring it forward to next year. You mean in 2020, Singapore being a first world nation is not able to equip its students with learning devices for home-based learning? And you know, that also shows the power of social media. That shows the power of politicians like myself, who's daring enough to voice out. And when we collectively make our voices heard, changes happen. That has not happened in the past, when the mainstream media was dominant. But times are changing. And I will ask you to keep asking questions and keep making demands, because that's how change comes about. Thank you, and I hope I've answered you, Titus.
Okay, a question from To Hong Lee. Where is your party contesting?
Hong Lee, we have made known our choice of 6 constituencies. In fact, we have added a 7th, Jurong GRC. We are presently in talks with some other parties whom we are friendly with. Let me say this. For 6 constituencies, we will need 20 candidates. PV now has almost 30 candidates. So we have more than enough candidates to fight all the 6 constituencies we want to. But in the spirit of opposition unity, we are prepared to discuss with our fellow opposition members, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that come polling day, the opposition are going to have a resounding success. Remember, this is the 61st year, and amazing things happen in the 61st year.
There's one from Gad. Many senior colleagues feel that there is no strong opposition party. WP may be one with a few track record. Will there be a chance for a coalition considered?
Gad, let me say this. People must move away from a notion that there can only be a 2-party system. That is not realistic in the modern world. Let me give you a few examples. Some of the most advanced countries in the world, Germany, the Scandinavian countries, Switzerland, they do not have a 2-party system. They have multi-party systems in parliament, and that works fine. People will always give you the theory, the argument, oh, you can't have so many small parties because it will be unstable. That is total nonsense. That is total nonsense. A multi-party system forces the parties to work together, to come up with the best solutions. You look at our parliament now. Yeah, there are 2 parties in parliament. Has the ruling party been up to the task for COVID? In fact, it has been a shameful spectacle, a shameful failure on their part. You look at the UK, which started off as a traditional 2-party system. But do they have 2 parties today? No, they don't. They have at least 4 parties. You have the ruling Conservative, you have the main Labour Party, you have the Liberal Democrats, you have the Scottish National Party, which is a major bloc is in Westminster. And let's even go now to America, all right, which I think today is one of the very, very few democracies with still a 2-party system. But I don't expect that to last, because President Trump is not really from the mainstream Republican Party. And over the years, the Republican Party has had factions that have broken off. They have this faction known as the Tea Party. All right? So it is likely in the next few years, you are going to see a multi-party system evolve in America as well. Yes, the opposition may consist of small parties, some bigger parties like the WP, but there's absolutely the chance for us to work together. If not now, certainly in Parliament. And that is how all multi-party systems work. They force parties to work together in Parliament. Last question? Anyone? Thank you very much. Thank you, my fellow Singaporeans. It has been a great pleasure and experience for me to do this first Living Room Rally. And I hope to see all of you again very soon in another location. I want to thank Ricky, our host today, for the wonderful hospitality. Thank you all very much. My friends, we are going to be holding such living room rallies from now until cooling off day. And that is an undertaking I give you. We are not only going to hold living room rallies, we are going to have dining room debates as well. And that is another first from People's Voice. Thank you very much.